Today, we're going to talk about decreasing the stigma around cannabis as medical professionals. Let's talk about what the word means first. What is a stigma? The dictionary defines it as a mark of shame or a discredit, a stain. Anything or anyone can carry a stigma, and it's social disgraces attached to others to identify and devalue them. But abolishing a stigma after it's created can take years of evidence, verification, and testimony to shift public beliefs. I've been a nurse for many years, and before 2011, I had some belief in alternative therapies. I'm going to tell you a little story about how my mom changed my viewpoint on holistic therapy and the stigma that I believe I had attached to it. I'm a scientific thinker by nature, needing to know why and how things work. I remember coming home from a terrible day at work. I remember my stress level was incredibly high, and I was having difficulty processing and dispersing those emotions. My mother had recently become a Reiki practitioner and had offered to give me a session to help move the energy. I thought she was crazy. Our Italian family has always had our magical and ancestral beliefs and customs, but to me, Reiki was a little over the top. I mean, who moves energy? And why would you want to do that? And most of all, how on earth is this going to help me feel better right now? My limited belief at the time could be called a stigma. I lumped most alternative therapies into a big ball of nonsense, as with the rest of the medical community at that time. The medical community that I worked with was very science-based with very, very little room for complementary therapies. But then she started the session. I closed my eyes and I tried to clear my head. Before I could take a deep breath, I began seeing brilliant colors flash before my closed eyelids. I was filled with incredible warmth, and tingling sensations trickled down through my head from her warm hands, down into my trunk, through my arms and my legs, and into my feet. I remember opening my eyes several times, thinking someone had turned on a light or opened a shade, but nothing in the room had been altered. I then began to cry. I mean, not even cry, I sobbed. And as I continued to experience this warmth and the release of my tears, I felt the weight of everything being lifted off my body. My head became clear, my thoughts were few, and I began to breathe deeply and relax. My mother finished the session with a succession of prayers, sweeping my aura clear and grounding my energy. I was speechless. She made me an instant believer in less than 30 minutes. I apologized for doubting her. I thanked her for her energy exchange. She said she understood and was grateful that she could help. My mom changed the way that I view holistic therapies. I went on to become fully involved in Reiki and alternative therapies for myself and others, and I utilize it every day in my nursing practice. I did have to go back and do the research, though, and found many articles about Reiki and its amazing potential. The stigma that I carried was dissolved through experience and later education. I believe that we as medical professionals can change the culture and stigma surrounding cannabis with education and experience. I'm not saying that everyone has to try cannabis to have an epiphany, but we should be willing to learn what is known before we pass judgment on something that can be extremely beneficial with supervision and guidance. Cannabis has been utilized for thousands of years by many cultures all over the world. Its uses included spiritual rites, calming effects, and medicinal properties. It was introduced into the United States in the 1800s and officially made its way into the U.S. pharmacopoeia for medicinal use. Fast forward to the 1930s, when the Federal Bureau of Narcotics targeted cannabis, resulting in racial profiling, social injustice, and fear of imprisonment and vilification. The cannabis stigma was born. Cannabis began to redeem itself as a healing plant over time. As of 2022, 41 states, including the District of Columbia and Puerto Rico, have authorized medical cannabis use, with 23 of those states decriminalizing the plant for adult use. It continues to remain a federally illegal Schedule I drug. This classification does nothing to decrease the stigma of cannabis. What it does do, however, is hinder the efforts to educate medical professionals and the community and perform valuable research. 13% of medical schools surveyed in the United States teach students about the endocannabinoid system. Let's flip that. That means 87% of medical students have little to no knowledge about the endocannabinoid system and its role in our bodies. The endocannabinoid system is crucial in maintaining homeostasis in our bodies. It is a neuromodulatory system with CB1 and CB2 receptors, enzymes, and lipids, and exists in all mammals. It has been studied for over 50 years, starting with Dr. Mechoulam and his discovery of the THC molecule to the discovery of this first CB receptor in 1992. And as of 2021, there are over 20,000 publications on the molecular and functional aspects of the ECS. This is approximately 2 scientific publications per day on the ECS, per Dr. Sulak. So why wouldn't medical schools have a curriculum based on one of the most important systems in the body? The ECS can be balanced by daily lifestyle changes, healthy eating habits, exercise, and stress reduction. Many forms of complementary therapies can help attain this balance. Cannabinoids can also greatly enhance the ECS and provide homeostasis. Most medical schools teach tangible allopathic Western medicine. They teach about pharmacology, anatomy, chemistry, medications, and what the body does with them. Now let's throw in cannabinoids or any other naturopathic remedy. Most do not come with a drug insert or a black box warning. Most are loosely based on qualitative research and patient experience. Some schools do, however, provide elective courses on complementary therapies. However, little scientific research can be provided to substantiate their use. Another reason for not teaching students about the ECS and cannabis is because of its Schedule I classification. One reason stated for not including the ECS in the curriculum is that there is simply no room. This really must change. 78% of medical students surveyed felt that education on medical cannabis should be taught in school. If cannabis education is started in medical and nursing schools, this can have the potential to greatly reduce the stigma in the community. Educating healthcare professionals and students will greatly reduce myths, fears, and stereotyping that are currently alive. Education about cannabis and its medicinal properties can decrease stress, isolation, and social discrimination for patients. But the stigma continues in the medical profession because of a lack of knowledge. When we start to educate our medical students, we can effectively educate the community. Who knows? We may be able to create those epiphany moments in medical students, nurses, and doctors, where we may inspire them to step forward and seek out knowledge of cannabinoids while educating the community and our local leaders, bringing cannabis the credit that it deserves as a miraculous healing plant. Thank you for your time. Help us change the world.